have hardly any margin. The 198 calculated is right at the limit. So I was going to follow up with, if your seismic load went up for the site-specific case, can it not push you over the 198 limit? All you need is one more megapascal and you're over the limit.
The 198 MPa is for design condition, and there's a separate calculation for faulted at a much higher allowable, which is where you bring in hydrodynamic and seismic.
Oh, okay. Then could you show me where in the report you discuss that other condition, faulted?
I believe there's a separate report for that where we talk about to the head stresses itself, and it talks about the...
One second. Not the head. Let's stick with this report. This report covers the anchor bolts and the flange. Let's stick with this.
The report only considers the design condition and the seismic and the load on the bolt from the seismic condition. Is not the faulted conditions is discussed in a separate report.
What is that report that discusses the seismic
that
load?
Was the WG3-T11-DRD-S. I forgot the number on it.
Okay.
3 or 4.
Oh, so in there, does it go over the anchor bolt calculation?
I believe it's summarized in the table.
Oh, okay. If it's contained...
I have to look, but that's what I remember.
Oh, okay. So I thought it would be here because this is where you discuss the anchorage calculations. So you think it's separated out somewhere else?
Well, I think in the other report it discusses what the actual seismic results are on the head, and it basically shows why they're negligible.
Yeah, on the head, but we were discussing the anchor bolt, not the head.
Yeah, but if there's no stress on the flange in the head, then there's no additional stress on the bolt. I hope you agree on that one.
Well, the stress is never zero. I think the report indicates it's, quote, negligible, or it's small.
Yeah, it's less than 1 MPa, okay. Even though with both for Dominion and for NA3 and DCD seismic.
Well, I think that's why the staff raised the question. Your calculated value is 198, and your limit is 198. So there's no margin there. So that's where they were coming from.
Okay. But there's no difference in the margin in the DCD report that the staff accepted.
You're correct, as long as the new seismic is the same as the old seismic. You're correct.
Actually, the new seismic is slightly higher if you look at the comparison of the NA3 to DC loads on the top slab of the concrete of the containment.
Well, that's where I'm coming from. How much higher is it, and will it push to 198?
I don't think Joe is involved.
It's in the other report. It's a very, very small increase. Even though the acceleration was very high, the impact on the head was very small.
Okay. Well, I don't know how the staff wants to handle it, but their calculation is right at the limit. So if seismic increases more...
No, it's because what I've heard is the seismic load from site-specific analysis is indeed higher than the DCD seismic load, right?
That's what I heard.
So that is higher, that is exceedance. We need to address that. I mean, here you don't need too much, right?
Right.
1 megapascal is over the limit, right? So we need to address that, and also.
If we did, it's addressed in the T11 other report, gentlemen.
Yeah,
if you please go review it, then we can discuss it further during the audit.
For the service level, what's the service level D calculation? Is that the one that you're referring to?
Correct.
I'm trying to understand what this, I don't understand the question here, because it talks about design stress. If you don't talk design stress in the context of the service level, okay, it's meaningless, right? Because there's 4 service level you need to...
If we need to revise the report to clarify things, we can do that.
I think we need to clarify that, but also...
It won't impact the DCD, mind you, but we can revise the report if that's what's needed.
It's not the DCD, it's still associated with the COLA application because you have exceedances, okay? You need to address all issues associated with exceedance.
There is a discussion of that in the DCD already.
No, I know.
We have a separate...
I know, but the way you characterize negligible, small, whatever, right? You qualify it, but you need to provide some support information to establish the fact, right? So also there is a calculation you just mentioned. I would like it, get the meaning, provide our calculation so that in the electronic reading room, So staff has a benefit to review that, to put that in his count, right? So, you know, I mean, this is making me feel a little uncomfortable now because we still have 1 month. I hope we close all the gaps. You know, I mean, I don't want to go into the audit with all these confusions, and we have only 5 days, and practically it's only 4 days, because that's the last day you have to prepare for the exit, right? So you have 4 days, you know, I don't want to get into this kind of debate. So in terms of methodology, what analysis is being credited for, for which part, and this is just confusing, and it's not beneficial for all sides, right? So, you know, I would like, you know, we all put together, make sure we, you know, try to approach the issue objectively, but you need to provide the right information.
Jim, this is Gina. I agree with what you're saying, and I guess what I'd just like to do is, at this point, if we need to have further discussion, certainly we can do that on this call. If you think we need to talk about it further after both parties go back and look at the reports, we can do that. Or if you think we can identify specific actions that we ought to put in the action item list for this item right now and proceed, we can do that too. Whatever you think.
I think right now Dominion should put this in the parking lot as part of your action item, and also I would like you to provide that calculation you just mentioned to the staff in the electronic reading room, so that the staff will have the opportunity to review that in the context of this report.
Excuse me, does Dominion refer to report WG3T11 DRDS 0003?
I think that's
correct.
So we already have that report, and I believe that report. And I believe that report does not discuss the containment drywall head anchorage. So maybe if you could point out where it does, that could resolve it. But I don't see it in there. It addresses the drywall head itself, not the anchorage.
Okay, so question number 4, I don't think we can resolve this today. I would like the Dominion go back to look at this question. And then, you know, I mean, I know based on recollection, you may not mention the right number of the calculation. So I want to go back to put together a coherent story. You know, maybe we look for the next opportunity. Maybe talk with Mike and Jim. You know, what the right communication channel would use to address this issue. But we need to address this.
Well,
I just don't want to have this kind of a back-and-forth discussion without,
if there is a calculation that will readily explain what the staff is looking for in this question, we can have that be put in the reading room, and we don't have to wait. You can communicate that to Mike and Jim, and then we can look at that before the next meeting. Otherwise,
that's right, yeah.
if that's not the case, if we can't go from one point to the other point and clearly understand what the response is, then you're going to need to write something up to explain it.
It would be maybe we can also present it. We will visit here.
That's going to be the next meeting.
Yeah, but they need to understand this, right? I mean, right now,
what I'm saying is,
story I heard with both sides seem to be a little bit confused this particular aspect, right? You know, the Dominion signing the report that Joe.
Our basic focus was in the report when we say this is the design number and this is the limit. We are comparing the design and the limit, and they are saying, they ask question, do you have any margin there?
It doesn't appear to be any.
And that's what not very much explained, in the report. How that margin came in, what it is, and why, That was the basic question, Now, which fault, is it a faulted condition, or is it a C condition, or operating condition, that's immaterial. For every condition, we have a design limit.
But what the service level this limit is associated? That's what I asked.
As I
You guys asked the question, right?
they said 1.1, and as I understood now that it is.
Is this service level C or which service level?
I don't remember now.
Okay, so, you know, I mean, there's a confusion on both sides.
Yeah, I think one of the confusions is on both sides. Back in the day, I actually wrote the procedure for bolting at the Oyster Creek. I think you need a person who does that for a living. You know, understands the bolting for these heads and flanges. My understanding is ASME has specific limits on these, and that's what they go to. So I understand the calculation that you use, and you say you go to your limit for your preload. That makes 100% sense to me. That's exactly how we did it at Oyster Creek. And then there's excessive stress above that, 1.5 or whatever the number is, I forget now. But then that bolt will fail at much higher stresses. So I think you need someone to address that aspect of it, which may not be the people you have here on the line. If you can. Does that make sense? Hello?
Yes.
Gina, I agree. We need to put together a package, and hopefully we'll be ready to talk about it at the March 3rd meeting. But yes, we all need to discuss it anymore today. We understand.
But we just need a coherent story, eh? You know, I mean, based on recollection, you may not present the right information.
I certainly understand what the staff is asking, so yes. What I heard is you're at the limit, and you said seismic was insignificant, but if seismic is more, and you were at the limit, how can it be insignificant? That was the question I heard, so.
You got it right. Okay, let's move on now.
So we have action here.
Yeah.
I think it's 5 now. Continue forward.
Issues, the means action.
Yeah, but they have action.
Right.
The meeting has action.
That's what I'm, make sure she knows that.
Yeah.
Okay.
Go to question number 5.
Gina, are we ready to go to question 5? I think it sounds like
We
Dominion has
certainly are, Mike, yes.
a concern. We've on 4, so thank you.
Hi, this is Ruben. I will talk about this question, in this question the staff requested us to provide during audit 2 presentation that will show how the site-specific load demand calculated from the seismic analysis of landmass models was translated to loads in the national model used for the static analysis. Then we can go to slide 21. Next slide, basically is that the methodology we are using is identical to the methodology used for the DCT. So all the results from the stick models, to translate them to loads applied to the national models are exactly the same. The way we are applying the loads is to mimic the same distribution of seismic demands on the structures as those obtained from the site-specific seismic analysis. So the loads that the national model will experience will be simulating those represented by the bounding shear force, overturning moment, and torsional moment diagrams. We will provide a presentation on this, how the site-specific load demands were translated to national loads. And for this, we have one question. Which aspect of this procedure or method you need more information? Because some of it is already in the report, so we can focus our presentation on those aspects.
Well, we focus, basically, we want to understand. Sometimes, in the report, it's difficult. And the other thing that would be useful, if we can show us the Nastran section, okay, adds up to the stick model total shears, loads, and overturning.
So you want results from NASAN showing the distribution, for example, the something similar to the shear diagram, a bending diagram?
Right. Like if you cut a section through a NASAN model, you have forces on this, and all together add up to what was in the lump stick model, okay?
Right, for a certain elevation you want to know what is the shear load.
That is a good confirmatory.
Okay. But you wouldn't like to see more information, for example, how hydrodynamic pressures were applied or something?
I would. That part is also important, particularly.
Okay, we will have this. We are preparing the presentation, and we will provide as much details as possible, and we can discuss further if there are additional questions.
On this presentation during the audit, or?
Right now, it's in the audit scope, but if we can do it in the public meeting, we don't have to do one thing at the audit.
Whatever you can check it off, right?
Yeah, whatever we can do it here, we don't have to do during the audit.
Right,
Yeah.
They can bring as much as they can.
That's right, yeah.
If you can, otherwise
to accomplish as much as possible during the topic. So that we leave,
I don't know whether time...
Gina, do you think that your staff can support getting this particular presentation ready for the March 3rd public meeting?
I'd like to talk with them separately about that before we agree to that. That's okay.
Okay.
Yeah.
This Joe, can I ask, will that presentation include the following from the seismic SSI model, since it's a lump mass stick model, at each elevation I presume you have, let's say, a shear force and a moment and a vertical force. So will that presentation also discuss how you transfer the equivalent shear moment, vertical load and torsion into a detailed 3D finite element model? For example, for the shear force, do you just distribute the loads only to the walls parallel to the direction of the loading? And for moment, how do you distribute an overall moment to individual vertical forces? Do you follow? Will that be included?
Yes, and basically such information is already included in the report, and we will extract that information.
Okay, thank you.
And summarize it in the presentation.
Thank you. That'll be useful, I think, to everybody.
Yeah, it will be, we'll expedite.
Yeah.
So the methodology the mean use follows the DC approach, right? I mean, they're not deviating from. I don't know. The method statement, I think we should take that as we can do it. It will be helpful for us, when you go to the calculation. Yeah, and I'm not sure we need to. Are you limiting this? No, I mean, you've dominion, or you made a statement that they follow the DCD approach, and why we wouldn't believe.
I think it will be helpful, just to know.
I mean, there are no oath of affidavits, so, they follow the approach.
We can talk about this later.
So she's going to get back to us.
Yeah, so Gina, you can get back to us on that particular issue to see if, that's something you can put on the March 3rd meeting, or if we're going to be able to have to wait till the audit for that particular issue.
Yes.
Thank you.
Sure.
I think we're about ready to wrap up, am I correct, Gina?
Yes, I think we are.
Okay, I'm going to go ahead and go through my summary of what took place today, if you're ready.
Sure.
Okay, so I've got, I think, 7 items here that you're going to, based on our discussion today, overall, Dominion, you plan to resubmit your action item list, accept the changes as of today, and then a couple of modifications based on the discussions we had today. So that would be your action.
Yes.
Okay. You're going to discuss about a schedule for, as the staff is requesting, to get us as many FSAR markups before the audit as possible.
Right.
Okay. And you're going to get back to Jim and I regarding the submissions for the hydrology lip issue and the REI 2.54-26, I believe, revised REI response, or a new, the only REI response.
Yeah,
I think I saw those, but I may be confusing them with the drafts.
And I can give you those answers right now. The 25426 response went in, so you should have that. And I forwarded you an email that has the letter that shows that, but you can check. If you can't find it, let me know. And the other letter for the hydrology was signed this week, but it's going out today or tomorrow, okay? You should have it overnight, both you and Jim.
Yeah, just send us a copy of that in an email when you can.
Well, it's a little big, so I don't know if we're going to be able to send it electronically, but the letter at least can go to you guys.
That's why I meant the letter, just so that reminds me we have it.
Sure, yeah.
Appreciate it.
No problem.
Okay, thank you, Gina. And the next item that you are going to, when you're ready, to discuss the Audit 2 draft, the audit plan that we sent you. I think you were going to talk to some of your people about if you wanted to have a discussion about that, about
right.
the stake issue, and then maybe there's some other ones.
Yeah,
Right.
Yeah, and we can do that offline since it's audit proceedings.
Yeah.
So that's what I have waiting to hear from you for Jim to schedule something with the structural staff here to talk about that plan.
Okay.
You're going to send me any more topics or revised agenda for the public meeting on the 3rd, March 3rd.
Right.
And based on that, I was thinking that would be our next meeting. Not have a call, because the call would be the day before if we go on every 2 weeks. So I was going to just say that the 3rd meeting will be our next public meeting.
If we in between find anything significant, we'll let you know.
Okay. And then the next public meeting I could schedule for March 16th, which would be a week before we come to do our audit. Does that sound acceptable to everybody for meetings? So we'll have another call on the books. We've got the meeting in 2 weeks.
There's still going to be another call in between.
There'll be, well, I mean, no. They're coming in 2 weeks. That's when we'd be having the next call.
That'd be a public meeting.
Right, it'll be a public meeting, you can discuss anything.
So what question 4, is this going to be resolved?
Right, so I was going to get to that.
They will present.
So, Gina, does that sound acceptable? It sounds like it's okay with staff here that our next public meeting is the actual face-to-face meeting here at headquarters on the 3rd, and that I'll schedule a teleconference tentative for the 16th.
Yep, that sounds good, Mike.
Great, and then the slide discussion we had on the 5 questions, based on my notes on items 1 and 2, Dominion's going to potentially modify the action item list to add a little more detail and make some FSAR changes or report changes, but you needed to discuss that amongst yourselves first.
Right.
Okay. Item 3 we were okay with. Item 4, it's Dominion's action to go back and look at the drywall head report and see if you all can clarify for us where the information is regarding the maximum load of 198 versus a limit for the torque bolts. The bolt torques for the drywall head report. So you can get back to us on that, and hopefully that can be possibly a presentation for the March 3rd meeting.
Yes.
Okay. And then item 5, it sounds like if you can get that as a presentation for the March 3rd public meeting, that would be preferable. So hopefully you're going to consider that.
Right.
I think that's all I have.
Okay.
Does that sound right to you, Gina? Do we have any?
The only other thing I had was that Manus had a comment about one of the action items, and in Tier 1, the 6001 action item.
600C?
I'm sorry, yeah.
25? Yeah, right. Yeah.
I'll give you that blurb too, online.
Yeah.
Oh, okay, thank you.
I don't think that's...
So you'll give me some, you'll clarify. Okay. All right, thank you for that, Gina.
Just additional item, just look at them there. The relationship.
Thank you.
All right, so,
It's a social. For sure.
Okay, so I guess we're ready to wrap up the business portion. So Gina, we'll go ahead and wrap up the business portion. So Dominion and their representative, do you have an issue? Oh, you're going. Okay. So Dominion, any of you and your representatives are welcome to drop off the line. We will now go in to entertain any questions that we have from the public of the NRC. So that time of the meeting is here, so any members of the public who are online, you can unmute and identify yourselves and ask the NRC any questions.
All right. Thank you, Mike. Bye-bye.
Bye.
Hello, can you hear me?
Yes.
Hi, this is Erica Gray in Richmond, Virginia. Well, I have a couple of questions. First of all, I'd like to know why June 30th for the final COLA submittal seems to be so important. There seems to be a little bit of a rush here to get all these papers and everything in, all the different analysis. Can you tell me why June 30th for the final?
Jim Shea here. I
Yes.
Exactly why. It's part of our regulations required to submit a COLA submission every year, and that would meet their deadline for that requirement.
So this was, the 30th was for the extension of them not getting it in on time from before, correct?
They asked for an exemption, and they were granted an exemption for last year's COLA submission because of the fact that there was, and we talked about, I think we talked about this with you before, was that because of all the seismic information that is really being done this year, that it didn't make sense to have a COLA submission last year when it didn't change from Rev 8. Essentially, all the changes are occurring through the seismic evaluation. So therefore, that's what it was granted. They requested through our regulations an exemption from COLA submission, and it was granted.
Okay, well that's probably what I was thinking it was. The other question I have is, well, it's kind of a question and a comment. I am a little concerned when I hear comments such as we didn't do something because of time and money. Changing from a 5,000 to 6,000 PSIs or whatever on concrete, but not really following through. It seemed like there was today a lot of questions from the NRC to Dominion on either clarifying or putting down reasons or something of that sort. So
I think that's an easy one. If maybe you weren't listening closely, but the fact is that there's different ways to do the analysis, and Dominion chooses that method as long as it's approved by the NRC. And they chose a method that for them was more conservative, and so therefore, and it's also matched the current DCD, and therefore it saved them from doing extensive reanalysis to gain additional margin. That's what they chose. They could have chose to spend more millions and and done it a different approach, but either way is acceptable to the staff. So that's not a concern. That's up to them. They have their economic reasons for doing things.
Well, yeah, I'm sure they do, and obviously, I would imagine if it was me, I'd want to make sure I'm not wasting money either. Right. But I'm just saying, y'all's response on various occasions were asking for reasons and asking for clarification.
And if you look at it, their specific thing to save money is actually they're doing more conservative approach.
Well, I'm hoping they're doing very conservative approaches, but I think the last discussions on the flange bolts and that sort of thing, I couldn't help but realize that it does seem to be there's some missing stuff along with their analysis.
I don't think there's really anything missing other than it was just a misunderstanding on both sides. I don't think they had the right people to talk about that particular topic, so I think that's why we tabled it and it's going to be moved on. But obviously we're going to address it and to our satisfaction.
Well, yeah, definitely including seismic analysis on those bolts would be very important. And then my last question, because it seems like I can never quite get maybe the information that I need. When you're doing all these analyses on the different parts and on the shear and, the whole issue with seismic, can you please tell